Hi friends, I'm Pastor Diana. Welcome to the last daily devotion of 2020. I can't believe it. I'm so glad that you've chosen to spend some of your last hours, last few minutes with me and with Florence Christian Church and putting your focus on God. This week we have been saying goodbye to 2020 and spending a few moments in pausing and reflecting. And now we are at that pivot point, the time when we are changing from one year into another. And we're beginning to reflect on the past and look forward. We're at a place of turning. And you know, when we think about transitions and times changing, Ecclesiastes 3 is one of the passages that brings so much insight, has so much wisdom into it. So let's read that passage today. There's a season for everything, a time for every matter under the heavens, a time for giving birth and a time for dying, a time for planting and a time for uprooting what was planted, a time for killing and a time for healing, a time for tearing down and a time for building up, a time for crying and a time for laughing, a time for mourning and a time for dancing, a time for throwing stones and a time for gathering stones, and time for embracing, a time for avoiding embraces, a time for searching and a time for losing, a time for keeping and a time for throwing away, a time for tearing and a time for repairing, a time for keeping silent and a time for speaking, a time for loving and a time for hating, a time for war and a time for peace. You know, this piece of wisdom reminds us that everything has its season, that there is a time, and we're in a place of turning. As we begin to lean into 2021 and consider what this next year might bring, it's time for us to consider, what time is it? What are we letting go of? What are the things that we are moving towards? Is it a time for being silent? Is it a time for speaking up? Is it a time for mourning or a time for dancing? Or is it a time for all of it, which might be the case too? So as you begin to consider what 2021 might hold for you, I encourage you to do your worksheet from Mary Ann McKibben Dana and begin to think about what are the things that 2021 may hold for you. Knowing that for everything there is a season. 2021 will not be like 2020 was. But what are the things you want to bring from 2020 into 2021? Because there is a time for everything under the heavens. I pray that you will have a blessed last few hours of 2020 and that you have a beautiful and safe, happy new year. Will you pray with me? Gracious and loving God, as the day turns, we know that you are with us in all the seasons, all the moments of our lives. Be with us and the world as we turn the chapter from 2020 to 2021 and help us know that you are present at all times and in all places. Amen. Thank you so much for joining me. This wraps up. It's our last daily devotion for the year 2020. We look forward to seeing you in 2021. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel so that you don't miss a single one. And come here. Sophie says goodbye, everybody. Say happy 2021. Happy New Year. Love you all. See you again soon.